My brother chose the girl he cheated with over me after our parents died, so I teamed up with his ex and sent their lives spiraling. Now his fiancée left him broke, and he's asking me to forgive him. When I was 7, my brother started dating a girl named Kayla. She was in high school like him, but what made her different was how she treated me. She wasn't just his girlfriend, she was my best friend too. She'd play basketball in the yard with me, let me win sometimes, and trash talk me in Mario Kart, but always gave me her favorite controller. I used to tell my mom I wanted to find a girl just like Kayla when I grew up. Even though my brother sometimes got annoyed with how much time we spent together, she made him happy. She brought out this warmer side of him. He'd play with me more, help me with homework, joke around. Back then, I thought Kayla would be part of our family forever. They went to separate colleges but stayed together. I was 10 when everything changed. Kayla tried to surprise him at his dorm. She found him cheating with the same girl he's now engaged to. He dumped Kayla and banned her from the house, telling everyone she broke his heart. But I knew the truth. I begged our parents to let her still visit. They tried, but he made it impossible. Even after that, Kayla still texted me. She'd check in, send me memes, remember my birthday. My mom stayed in touch too, secretly. All of us loved her, and she promised me once, if you ever need me, I'll be there. I never thought I'd have to call in that promise. Not so soon. Last year, our parents died in a car crash. Everything just stopped. I was 13. Suddenly, my brother was my guardian, and his fiancée, the girl he cheated with, moved into our family home. That's when everything got worse. She made me clean, all of it. Scrubbed dishes, toilets, vacuumed. I wasn't allowed to touch the TV unless she said so. She made me cook dinner, but I barely knew how. My mom used to say I was too young for the oven. One time, I burned a grilled cheese and she laughed in my face. I kept texting Kayla. She was the only person who made me feel seen. She'd walk me through recipes, help me with homework, even Venmo'd me once when I didn't have lunch money. But then, my brother's fiancée found my phone. She went through it, saw the messages, and exploded. She screamed that I was disrespectful, that I had no right to talk to someone she didn't approve of, that in her house I needed to follow her rules. I told her through tears that it was my parents' house. She slapped the phone out of my hand. We argued. My brother came home. She told him I was being disobedient. He told me to leave, said I should give her space, that I was being immature. I didn't know what to do. So I called Kayla. She answered on the second ring. I didn't even have to finish my sentence. She said, I'll be there in 10. She picked me up in pajama pants and slippers. Didn't even wait for me to pack. She bought me an air mattress, let me pick out the sheets, bright teal, with little stars. We had a girls' day at the mall. She got me socks, face wash, a hoodie that says, hot chocolate over everything. We got frozen yogurt and she just listened. I told her I felt invisible since my parents died, that I didn't think my brother ever wanted me around. She nodded. Kayla looked at me over the rim of her mug and said, if you could do anything to make yourself feel better, what would it be? I didn't hesitate. I just want them to feel as small as they made me feel. She nodded, set the mug down, and smiled. Then let's do something about it. We both knew we had to be smart. No social media, no texts, no paper trail, nothing that could be pinned on us. Just enough chaos to shake their picture-perfect little world. The plan started with something simple, noise complaints. Kayla knew one of her old friends who still lived near my parents' house. Every other night, she'd file a complaint anonymously. Loud yelling, domestic disputes, suspicious activity. Each call was vague, but serious enough for the cops to knock at their door repeatedly. Next, we tackled the one thing Jerry's fiancé actually cared about, status. She was planning a massive engagement dinner at a swanky restaurant, something my parents would have hated, but Jerry didn't care. Kayla made one call, a fake catering inquiry, then another, and another, until the restaurant's schedule was so tangled, her reservation got dropped entirely. No refund, no rebooking, just a full room and nowhere for them to host it. A few days later, Kayla sent a gift to their house with a note that read, to the grieving girl who lost her moral compass. We're so sorry for your loss. A friend. It rattled them. I know because my brother called me that night furious. Did you put Kayla up to this? He barked. I'm not allowed to talk to people you Jerry'd approve of, remember? I said sweetly before hanging up. But it didn't end there. The last part of our plan took a little more effort. Kayla knew Jerry's fiancé had applied for a scholarship program to go back to school. She needed glowing references from people in the community. So we made a few calls, anonymously of course. We let them know about the unpaid fines she had from previous apartments, about the little scam she'd run during COVID selling fake designer bags online, about the way she was currently caring for a minor. Her application got flagged. She didn't know why, but I did. And the best part? None of it could be traced back to us. The next time I saw my brother, he looked tired. As for me, I'm finally sleeping through the night. Kayla and I haven't said it out loud, but we both know the revenge isn't over. We're just getting started. I thought we were being clever. I really did. But I underestimated how low my brother's fiancé would go. Yesterday, I got home from school to find 2 police officers standing in Michelle's living room. My heart dropped into my stomach. Michelle was sitting on the couch, looking calm, but I could tell she was scared. The officers explained that my brother's fiancé had reported Michelle for kidnapping a minor. Me. I couldn't believe it. I immediately jumped in, telling them I wasn't kidnapped, that I was kicked out of my own house. The officers looked skeptical. One of them, Officer Reyes, asked me to pack my things. They were taking me back to my brother's. I cried the whole way there. When we arrived, my brother and his fiancé were waiting, looking all concerned and relieved. It was such an act. His fiancé even hugged me, whispering, "You'll learn not to cross me." The officers wanted to talk to all of us separately. When it was my turn, I told Officer Reyes everything. How they made me clean the whole house, how they took my phone, how they kicked me out. I showed him the text from that night. I even showed him the crack in my phone screen from when she slapped it out of my hand. Officer Reyes took a lot of notes. Like, a lot. He asked me a bunch of questions about my living situation, about my parents' death, about how my brother became my guardian. I tried to answer everything honestly, but I was so nervous my voice kept cracking. He noticed and got me a glass of water, which was nice. The whole time I could hear my brother and his fiancé talking to the other officer in the kitchen. their voices rising and falling like waves, sometimes crashing loudly against the walls. After about an hour, Officer Reyes stepped out to talk to his partner. I sat alone in the living room, staring at all the family photos my brother's fiancée had rearranged. She'd put away most of the ones with my parents, and put up a bunch of her and my brother. It was like she was trying to erase my parents from their own house. I ran my fingers over the dusty outline on the wall where my favorite photo of mom and dad used to hang, the one from their 20th anniversary where they were dancing and laughing like teenagers. When the officers came back in, they looked serious. Officer Reyes told my brother they needed to conduct a formal investigation into the situation. His fiancée started protesting immediately, her voice rising to that shrill pitch that made my teeth hurt. She was saying I was just a troubled teen making up stories because I was jealous of their relationship. I almost laughed out loud at that. Jealous? Of them? Yeah, right. Jealous of how she controlled him like a puppet? Jealous of how they treated me like an unwanted houseguest in my own home? The officer said they'd be in touch and left. As soon as the door closed, my brother's fiancée turned on me, her face flushed with anger, veins standing out on her neck. She started going off about how ungrateful I was, how she'd jerry everything to make me feel welcome, how I was trying to ruin their lives. My brother just stood there, shoulders slumped, letting her rant. I noticed he wouldn't look me in the eye, just stared at the floor like the pattern in the carpet held some secret escape route. I went to my room and locked the door, leaning against it and sliding down until I hit the floor. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my fingertips. I texted Michelle everything that happened. She told me to document everything, take pictures of the house, record conversations if I could, keep track of what they made me do. She said we might need evidence later. Smart, practical Michelle. She'd been my rock since my parents died, the big sister I never had. That night, I barely slept. I could hear them arguing downstairs, their voices seeping through the floorboards like toxic gas. At one point, I heard my brother say something like, maybe we should just let her go, and his fiancée practically screamed at him. I recorded some of it on my phone, just like Michelle suggested, huddled under my blankets with the device clutched in my trembling hands. The next morning, things got even worse. My brother's fiancée woke me up at 6 a.m., yanking the covers off my bed with such force that I nearly tumbled onto the floor. The cold air hit me like a slap. She had a list of chores for me to do before school, her handwriting sharp and angry on the paper she thrust at me. When I said I needed to get ready for class, she said I could go to school when the house was clean. Her smile was all teeth and no warmth. I ended up missing my first 2 periods because she made me scrub the kitchen floor on my hands and knees, inspecting every tile with exaggerated scrutiny. I took pictures of my raw red hands afterward, the skin peeling slightly where the cleaning chemicals had eaten away at it. At school, I got called to the guidance counselor's office during 3rd period. My stomach dropped when I heard my name over the intercom. Apparently, Officer Reyes had contacted the school as part of his investigation. The counselor, Mr. Patterson, with her kind eyes and collection of inspirational posters, asked me a bunch of questions about my home life. I told her everything, how they treated me, how they kicked me out, how I felt safer with Michelle. She looked concerned, making notes in a folder with my name on it, and said she'd be following up with Child Protective Services. As I left her office, I felt both relieved and terrified, like I'd started an avalanche and now had to outrun it. When I got home that afternoon, my brother was waiting for me. His fiancée wasn't there, which immediately put me on edge. She was always there, monitoring everything. He actually seemed different, nervous. He kept running his hand through his hair the way he used to when he was stressed about exams in college. He asked if I wanted pizza for dinner, as if we were just a normal family having a normal day. I was suspicious, but said yes, my stomach growling at the thought of actual takeout instead of whatever health food kick his fiancée was on that week. While we ate, he tried to make small talk, asking about school and stuff. It was weird. He hadn't shown interest in my life for months. I answered in monosyllables, watching him carefully over the rim of my soda glass. The pizza sat heavy in my stomach as I waited for whatever was coming. Finally, he got to the point, setting down his half-eaten slice and clearing his throat. He said his fiancée was really stressed about the police investigation and the call from my school. He said maybe we could work something out where I'd tell everyone there was just a misunderstanding. In return, they'd ease up on the rules at home. His eyes were pleading, but there was something else there too. Fear. I asked him point blank if he remembered kicking me out. The words hung in the air between us like a challenge. He stammered something about how I'd misinterpreted what happened, his gaze sliding away from mine. I pulled out my phone and played the recording I'd made that night, where he clearly told me to leave. The color drained from his face like someone had pulled a plug. Where did you get that? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I recorded it. I record a lot of things now, I told him, trying to sound confident despite my racing heart. It wasn't entirely true, but he didn't need to know that. The bluff seemed to work. He looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time. He got quiet after that, pushing his plate away and staring out the window at the darkening sky. When his fiancée came home, they had another argument in their bedroom. I could hear the muffled sounds through the wall, her voice rising and falling dramatically, while his remained a low, constant murmur. I heard my name a few times. I texted Michelle updates throughout the night, my phone glowing under my blankets like a lifeline. The next day, a woman from CPS came to the house. Her name was Barbara, and she had this calm, no-nonsense vibe that I immediately liked. Her gray-streaked hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and she wore sensible shoes that made almost no sound on our hardwood floors. She interviewed each of us separately. When it was my turn, I showed her all the evidence I'd gathered, the recordings, the pictures, the texts. I told her about my parents' death in the car accident last year, about how things changed when my brother's fiancée moved in, about being kicked out into the cold night with nowhere to go. Barbara took it all very seriously, her pen moving steadily across her notepad. She didn't offer empty reassurances or pat my hand like I was a child. Instead, she asked practical questions and listened carefully to my answers. She asked if I had somewhere safe I could stay temporarily while they conducted their investigation. I immediately said Michelle's, the words tumbling out before she'd even finished her question. Barbara seemed hesitant at first, her eyebrows drawing together slightly, but I explained who Michelle was, how long I'd known her, how she'd been there for me when my parents died, how she was 26 and had a stable job as a graphic designer, how her apartment was small but clean and safe. Barbara said she'd need to check Michelle's home to make sure it was suitable, but it might be a possibility. Hope fluttered in my chest like a trapped bird. When Barbara told my brother and his fiancée that I might be placed temporarily with Michelle, his fiancée lost it. She started screaming about how Michelle was trying to steal me away, how she was manipulating me, how she'd always been jealous of their relationship. Spittle flew from her mouth as she ranted, her mascara smudging slightly at the corners of her eyes. Barbara remained completely calm, which seemed to make his fiancée even angrier. She wasn't used to people not reacting to her theatrics. My brother, surprisingly, didn't say much. He just looked tired, the circles under his eyes dark as bruises. When his fiancée stormed out of the room, slamming the door so hard that the family photos rattled on the wall, he quietly asked Barbara what would happen next. She explained that there would be a formal investigation, that they'd look into whether he was fulfilling his duties as my guardian, and that they'd determine the best living situation for me. Her voice was matter-of-fact, neither accusatory nor sympathetic. After Barbara left, my brother came to my room. He knocked softly, something he hadn't Jerry in months. Usually they just barged in whenever they wanted. He sat on the edge of my bed, something he hadn't Jerry since I was little, and he would read me bedtime stories. The mattress dipped under his weight, and for a moment, I caught a glimpse of the brother I used to know. He asked me if I really wanted to live with Michelle. I told him yes, my voice steadier than I expected. He nodded slowly, then asked if I knew anything about our parents' will. I was confused by the question, my brow furrowing. What do you mean? I asked, watching his face carefully. Never mind, he said, and left, the door clicking shut softly behind him. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars on my ceiling, remnants from when this was truly my room, in my home. I heard them talking downstairs, their voices drifting up through the heating vent. They were talking about money, about the house, about something called a trust. I didn't understand all of it, but I got the feeling there was something about my parents' will that I didn't know about, something important. I texted Michelle about it, my fingers flying over the screen. She said she'd look into it, that she had a friend who was a lawyer. The next morning, she picked me up for school. Barbara had arranged it so I wouldn't have to ride with my brother or his fiancée. As we drove, the morning sun painting everything gold, Michelle told me she'd found something interesting. Apparently my parents had set up a trust for me. The house was supposed to be kept until I was 18, and there was money set aside for my care. My brother was the trustee, which meant he was in charge of managing it, but he couldn't just use it however he wanted. It was meant for me, for my education, my needs, my future. Do you think he's been using my money? I asked, my voice small in the quiet car. Jerry, no, Michelle said, her hands tightening slightly on the steering wheel. But we're going to find out. After school, Michelle took me to meet her friend, a lawyer named Jeremy. He was younger than I expected, with glasses and a friendly smile that made the corners of his eyes crinkle. His office was small but neat, with law books lining the walls and a desk that looked like it had seen better days. He explained trusts and wills to me in a way that actually made sense, using analogies about safes and keys instead of legal jargon. He said if my brother wasn't using the trust properly, there could be serious consequences. Jeremy helped me draft a letter requesting information about the trust. He said as the beneficiary, I had the right to know how the money was being used. We sent it certified mail so my brother couldn't claim he never received it. As we watched the postal worker stamp the receipt, I felt a strange mix of power and sadness. This was my family we were talking about, what was left of it anyway. 2 days later, Barbara called. She said based on her initial findings, she was recommending I stay with Michelle temporarily, while the investigation continued. She'd visited Michelle's apartment and found it suitable, clean, safe, with a proper bedroom for me. She'd also run background checks and everything came back clean. I was so relieved I started crying, right there on the phone, tears streaming down my face as I thanked her over and over. When I told my brother, he just nodded, his face unreadable. His fiancée wasn't home, which was probably for the best. I imagined her reaction, the screaming, the accusations, the drama, and was grateful for her absence. My brother helped me pack more of my things, which surprised me. He carefully folded my clothes, wrapped my framed photos in t-shirts so they wouldn't break, and even found my old stuffed bear that had been missing for months. As I was gathering my stuff, he asked me about the letter. I got your letter about the trust, he said quietly, handing me a stack of books. And? I prompted, trying to keep my voice steady. He sighed, a deep sound that seemed to come from somewhere hollow inside him. I'll get you the information. Just give me a few days. I nodded and continued packing, not trusting myself to speak. Before I left, he awkwardly gave me a hug. It was the first time he'd hugged me since our parents' funeral. He smelled like he used to, before her, like mint gum, and that specific laundry detergent he'd always bought. For a moment, I let myself lean into it, remembering the brother who had taught me to ride a bike and helped me with my science fair projects. Living with Michelle was amazing. Her apartment wasn't big, just a 2-bedroom in an older building downtown, but it felt more like home than my actual house had in months. The walls were covered in her artwork and photographs, splashes of color everywhere you looked. She made sure I had everything I needed for school. We cooked dinner together every night, laughing as we experimented with recipes. She helped me with my homework, especially math, which had always been my weakness. It was like having a big sister, the kind I'd always secretly wanted. A week after I moved in with Michelle, Jeremy called us. My brother had sent over the trust information, and it wasn't good. He'd been using the money meant for my care to pay for his fiancée's credit card debt, their vacations, and even part of her engagement ring, a 3-carat monstrosity that she was always flashing around. The house was supposed to be maintained for me, but he'd been talking to realtors about selling it. My childhood home, the last place I had memories of my parents, nearly sold out from under me. Jeremy said we had enough evidence to petition the court to remove my brother as trustee. He could even face legal consequences for misusing the funds. I wasn't sure how I felt about that. Despite everything, he was still my brother, the only family I had left. The thought of him in legal trouble made my stomach twist, even after everything he'd Jerry. That night, my brother showed up at Michelle's apartment. He looked terrible, like he hadn't slept in days. His clothes were wrinkled, his hair unwashed, his eyes bloodshot. His fiancée wasn't with him, which immediately set off alarm bells in my head. Michelle let him in but stayed close to me the whole time, a protective presence at my side. He told us his fiancée had left him. Apparently, when she found out about the trust and that he might get in trouble, she packed her bags and disappeared. She'd maxed out their joint credit cards before leaving, taking the engagement ring and most of the jewelry he'd bought her. He looked broken, sitting there on Michelle's colorful sofa, his shoulders hunched like he was trying to make himself smaller. Part of me felt satisfied seeing him like that. After everything they'd put me through, it felt like justice. But another part of me remembered the brother who used to push me on the swings and help me build snowmen. The brother who held my hand at Mom and Dad's funeral. The brother who existed before he met her. I messed up, he admitted, his voice rough. With the trust. With you. With everything. I didn't know what to say. The silence stretched between us, filled only by the soft ticking of Michelle's wall clock. Michelle stepped in, asking what he wanted, her tone businesslike but not unkind. I want to make things right, he said, looking up at me with red-rimmed eyes. I'll step down as trustee. I'll pay back every cent I took. I Jerry want to lose my sister too. I was skeptical, crossing my arms over my chest. He'd chosen his fiancée over me so many times. Why should I believe him now? Was he only here because she'd left him? Because he was alone? As if reading my mind, he added, I know you, Jerry, trust me. You shouldn't, but I want to try to earn it back. Lost. Since Mom and Dad died. That's not an excuse. Just, I want to find my way back to being your brother again. We talked for hours that night, about our parents, about what happened after they died, about how he'd let his fiancée take control of everything, including how I was treated. He admitted he'd been a terrible guardian. He cried when I told him how small and unwanted they'd made me feel, how I'd sometimes look at the knife drawer in the kitchen and wonder if anyone would miss me if I was gone too. That made him cry harder, great heaving sobs that shook his whole body. In the end, we agreed to work with Jeremy to set up a new arrangement. My brother would step down as trustee, and Michelle would be appointed in his place. I would continue living with Michelle, but my brother could visit. The house would be kept as our parents intended, not sold, and my brother would pay back every cent he'd misused, even if it took years. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a path forward. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of meetings with Jeremy, Barbara, and court officials. My brother's fiancée never returned, though she did call him once asking for money. He refused, his voice stronger than I'd heard it in months. I was proud of him for that small act of backbone. Barbara officially approved Michelle as my temporary guardian, with the possibility of making it permanent if things continued to go well. Jeremy helped set up the new trust arrangement, explaining everything in terms I could understand. And slowly, very slowly, my brother started to become part of my life again, this time on my terms. We'd meet for lunch on weekends. He'd come over for dinner sometimes, baby steps. One afternoon, about a month after everything changed, I was doing homework at Michelle's kitchen table when my phone buzzed. It was a text from my brother asking if I wanted to get ice cream, just the two of us. I hesitated, my finger hovering over the screen, then replied yes. We met at the ice cream shop where our parents used to take us when we were little. The same faded awning, the same bell that jingled when you opened the door. He got chocolate chip, I got mint chocolate chip, just like we used to. We sat outside on a bench, not talking much at first, watching kids ride bikes down the street and dogs pulling their owners along the sidewalk. Finally, he said, I found some of Mom and Dad's old home videos yesterday. I thought maybe, if you wanted, we could watch them together sometime. I felt tears prick my eyes, a lump forming in my throat. I'd like that, I said, my voice barely audible. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't even close, but it was a start. And for the first time since my parents died, I felt like maybe, just maybe, things could get better. Like the world wasn't just an endless series of losses. As for my brother's fiancée, we heard she'd moved to another state and was already engaged to someone else. Some wealthy older man she'd met at a resort. Good riddance. Michelle joked that we should send her a thank you card for leaving. After all, her departure was what finally woke my brother up. We didn't, of course, but the thought made me laugh until my sides hurt. That night, as Michelle and I made dinner together, chopping vegetables side by side in her tiny kitchen, I realized something. The revenge we'd planned had worked, but not in the way we expected. We wanted to make them feel small, to shake up their perfect little world. We succeeded beyond our wildest dreams. Their relationship imploded. The truth about the trust came out. My brother had to face what he'd Jerry, but the best revenge wasn't making them suffer. It was me finding happiness despite everything they did. It was me building a new family with Michelle. It was me giving my brother a chance to redeem himself, on my terms. Michelle must have noticed me deep in thought because she bumped my shoulder gently. Penny for your thoughts? She asked, stirring the pasta sauce that filled the apartment with the smell of basil and garlic. I smiled, just thinking about how sometimes the best revenge is living well. She grinned and handed me a spoon to taste the sauce she was making. Wise beyond your years, kid. Wise beyond your years. The next day, Jeremy called with news. The court had officially approved all our arrangements. Michelle was now my legal guardian. The trust was secure, and my brother had signed all the necessary paperwork without any resistance. There's one more thing, Jeremy said, his voice warm through the phone. Your brother asked me to tell you he started therapy. He said he wants to work on himself so he can be a better brother to you. I didn't know what to say to that. It was so unexpected. After we hung up, I sat on my bed for a long time, looking at an old family photo. My parents, my brother, and me, all smiling at the beach. Sand between our toes, sun in our hair, not a care in the world. I missed that family. I missed my parents every day. But maybe, just maybe, my brother and I could salvage something from the wreckage. That weekend, my brother came over with the home videos he'd mentioned. Michelle made popcorn, and the three of us sat on her couch watching my parents laugh and dance and live on screen. We cried, we laughed, we remembered. On the videos, my mom's voice was just as I remembered it, warm and slightly husky. My dad's laugh boomed through the speakers. They were alive again, if only for a little while. It wasn't the ending I expected when Michelle and I started our revenge plan. It was better. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't about making others suffer. Sometimes it's about finding your way back to happiness, on your own terms, with people who truly care about you. And as I sat there between Michelle and my brother, watching my parents on screen, I knew I'd found exactly that.